let me know.
Okay, well,
And
we're on.
okay. Wait,
Like right now,
we're
yeah,
on
we're on. We'll
right
see.
now. Okay, okay. Uh, I'll tell you when to switch slides. So anyway, all right, and welcome to Mythical Monster Investigations, episode 31, part 6 of our in-depth look at angels. Yeah, I paid attention this time.
We're
So,
already off to a roaring start.
yes, roaring. I'm on my game. That's not true, but anyway, I'm your host, Archimage, along with my co-hosts.
Shout out, Fox.
And Zed.
And in
Why
this,
do I keep letting you talk me into coming to this? Why?
Because you wouldn't want to miss out on the nonsense.
Let me get my Bible ready. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to miss out on that.
Exactly, and also you couldn't annoy me with that monster Pokemon.
I don't have to be here to annoy you with that.
That's true. But you have fun with this, and you know it. Anyway, in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the miscellaneous or biblical oddities. Go ahead and switch. On angels that are a bit more difficult to classify, and we're going to see why as this goes on. And this will actually mark the end of the biblical canon information of angels, which means next time we do this, we'll be looking into non-canon material, such as the Book of Enoch, which I know Shadow R. Fox is looking forward to.
Oh yes, we gotta write a whole the angel languages. We gotta get into summoning the demons. This is where I can cover myself in goat blood and go out and howl at the moon, and I will be legitified in saying I'm doing a podcast while I'm doing this. It's not just a random Thursday night. Now it actually has purpose.
That went so left field so fast. Why? You couldn't just say you were excited. You had to go with the goat blood. Really?
Look, I'm looking forward. This is where I figure out how we get. You know what? Why me trying to summon all those succubus demons? Why it never worked. So this is why next episode I'm looking forward to that, because then I figure it's just because they didn't want to get I'm too handsome and it scared them away. But maybe I'm doing the spell wrong, so maybe you can help me next episode on that.
The irony is later on in this very episode, I'm going to mention goats. Like,
well, that's gonna be fun too. Maybe it'll be a cheap supplier for that goat blood.
It has nothing to do. Okay, we're moving on. God, 5 minutes. 5 minutes, Shadow R. Fox.
Not even 5 minutes. We're only 2 minutes into this episode.
I know, that's my point. You couldn't give me 5 minutes. So yes, next time we'll be looking at non-canon biblical angels, and we will be starting with the Book of Enoch because that's the most famous, and apparently we'll be talking about Shadow R. Fox's possible succubus summoning.
That'll be fun. Make that work. Yeah.
Oh God, what have I done? Okay, so with that bit of fun, but to get back on track, I thought a good starting point would be an angelic type, which kind of links us back to the last episode discussing the Catholic angel hierarchy, which you can go ahead and switch slides again. Now, as discussed, this hierarchy is made up of 3 spheres containing 3 choirs, and the final choir of the final sphere are the guardian angels, which again, this hierarchy, as we said, was mostly just Catholic fan fiction. There's no actual good, credible evidence for this. But it's interesting nonetheless. Now, as mentioned, the Catholic hierarchy, yeah. But it is based on biblical canon, and that can be seen particularly in this one about guardian angels, which, like the rest of the hierarchy, are hinted at, though never actually stated. And in this case, specifically with these guardian angels, we see the hints of these in Matthew 18:10, which says, "See that you do not despise one of these little ones. For I tell you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who is in heaven." It's also mentioned in Psalms 91:11 through 12, Acts 12:15, and Hebrews 1:14. Now, Matthew 18:10 is the one people genuinely refer to when they speak about guardian angels because in some translations it does well it says little ones in this translation. Other translations it just straight up says children, so that's the one where it basically goes children and angels, which is why they have the guardian angels with children. Now, unsurprisingly, none of these verses actually use the term guardian angel, but you can see where the idea came from with the like guardian rules described. Now, again, the verse in Matthew is also the origin of them saying that every child has a guardian angel. Now, whether or not that is true is unclear, but in this, angels, according to the Bible, which we see in these verses, do take up guardianship roles. So you can see where it kind of came from. So I don't know. With these verses, like I guess you could hint that it's saying that there are such things as guardian angels, or in the very, but I'm not sure if every person actually has a single guardian angel. I don't think that's very clear. What do you guys think from just these verses?
I I think it's so I don't think there's like an actual rank of angel that's denoted as like a guardian angel rank. I think it's just choose any of the ranks of angels that has been mentioned, like actually been mentioned or described, and it's like either a class of that angel or a class that's never been identified, and they've been given the task to look over certain people or things or mostly people interests, because we have too many accounts in the Bible of them just um like Abraham, Isaac, um Jesus, choose like what some of the kings and the judges in the Old Testament who had like angels speak to them or look out for them. So
Yeah, which actually we're gonna get to that a little later too. Which that one's got less merit, but it will be interesting to mention. But yeah, I don't think there's any like direct evidence for like each one of us has like a personal angel looking over us. At least if we do, the Bible does not really make that clear. But they definitely take up guardianship roles, and they come down. They do the bidding of God. That's what we're getting at.
yeah.
So that makes sense. But yeah, that's where the term guardian angels come from. These are the verses that makes up that. So you can see, like I said, the choirs and the sphere, well, it is pretty much just Catholic fan fiction. You can see here where they got the idea. So it's not that they just made this up on the spot. Each one of these things, it does have some biblical reference, except the second one, virtues, powers, dominions, things like that. Again, there are mentions of that in the Bible, but there is far less of any context on that. So that's pretty much just kind of nonsense, to be honest, using names for as much as they can be used. But that's going to be the easiest one of these because the rest of what we're going to look at today is going to be a lot harder to classify.
Oh.
And I'm basically going to go from, believe it or not, least strange to most strange. And one of the stranger ones is going to be the mention of the four beasts, which go ahead and switch.
These I know very well.
Yeah. So now, when I say strange, I'm not talking about appearance, as there are far stranger looking things in the Bible. What makes the four beasts strange is actually the context of the verse of which they're stated. Now, the four beasts are mentioned in Revelation 4 7 through 8, which for those of you watching on YouTube is on the screen, but I'm going to go ahead and read it for the purpose. The first living creature was like a lion. The second was like an ox. The third had a face like a man. And the fourth was like an eagle. The fourth was like a flying eagle. Each of the four living creatures had 6 wings and was covered with eyes all around, even under its wings. Now, the context, go ahead and switch, is that the writer of Revelation, and it's revelation, not revelations. That's a common mistake, and you'll most likely hear me make that same mistake throughout this video and probably throughout this entire podcast. But it's the revelation, not revelations. That's a common mistake. The writer of Revelation, who is reported to be John, last of Jesus' disciples. Now, for maybe those who are a little less biblically knowable, Jesus had 12 disciples, of course. John was the youngest. He's often the one that in the Last Supper pictures, he's mistaken for
Mary,
um, Mary.
Mary
Yeah,
Magdalene.
Mary Magdalene.
Yeah.
Yes. He's mistaken for that because he was so young. And of course, in those times, especially with in the times of Leonardo da Vinci, a young boy, especially of that age, when he was painted to look very feminine, to basically denote a youth to him. And John at the time would have been a teenager. So that's why. So that's why he was the last of the disciples, because literally he was very young when he traveled with Jesus, and he lived to, according to it, lived to his late 90s. So that's why he got through it all. Um, and as a disciple, this passage says he is taken before the throne of God, where he sees the four creatures, which you noticed bear a very striking resemblance to the cherub mentioned in Ezekiel, save that they only have one face of each of the beasts mentioned by Ezekiel, and that they have 6 wings, not 4. Of now, and of course, this is also talking about the throne room, but the Bible does not offer much clarity for this. Now, for this slight discrepancy, I think there are 2 possible explanations that make the most sense, in my opinion. Now, I want to make very clear this is my opinion. I don't have any like good basis for this. It's just what I think might make the most logical sense. So go ahead and switch sides. Um, the first the first opinion of mine is that maybe it's a conflation of the cherub and the seraphim, because as we stated, they've got the 4 beasts that he describes are the 4 faces of the cherub, and the seraphim are the 6 wings as told in Isaiah. So it's an obvious enough explanation, as the 4 beasts are each one of the faces denoted by Ezekiel, and the 6 winged seraphim described in Isaiah. So the argument would be is that the book of Revelation is made up, is basically a fake by a priest or perhaps even a con man, which spread enough to become a verifiable book of the Bible. Now, this has actually been a very long standing debate, and some have actually questioned if it was either written by John the Baptist or John the Elder. But this is another one of the debate. And it's been debate for some time. And honestly, it's not something we're going to look at in this discussion, as there's good arguments for both sides. Though, as I believe at the making of this video, the scales are tipped more in favor of this book being verified than not. So, however, this is one explanation taking from this is one of the explanations that may be taking from other verses. If someone was writing this, they may have combined the two to make it sound more sensible. And it does have a little bit with Revelation, because this isn't the only case we see it. Like, for instance, with the 4 horsemen like things are also mentioned, I believe, in the book of Zechariah. So you can see how that kind of mixes with that, because Revelation's a weird book. Like, it's a weird book of the Bible. So that's why there's kind of this question around it. Any thoughts on that real quick before we move on to the second one?
I mean, I've heard the whole argument of, because I remember the John the Elder versus John the Apostle. I remember that one was a huge debate back in the day. If I recall correctly, wasn't essentially the entirety of Revelation said to be essentially a dream from John? And
Yes. Well, dream or vision. It's
yes,
supposed to be a vision of the apocalypse.
yes.
That's the whole point. So that's where this gets a little funny.
Well, it doesn't help that a lot of Revelation reads like a fever dream.
No, it does. It completely does. And where some things seem prophetic at times, other things just seem bizarre. And that actually, if you want like weird creatures in the Bible, Book of Revelation is where you're going to
That's
get
where
most
all
of
of
them.
them are.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and they're not really classified as angels, so we're not going to be looking at them. But who knows? In the future, maybe we'll do a special on the creatures of Revelation. Though, don't expect any answers like in our other monster videos because I don't have a clue what most of those things are. But it could be fun. Like maybe we'll consider it one day. Um, but yeah, so that's the thing. That's one theory. Another that may behoove us to look at or consider at least is placement. Go ahead and switch. The passage describes the prophet looking at the throne of God. And this throne room is now full. Now consider Ezekiel's description of the throne of God. The four cherub holding the throne, each of them facing outwards and each surrounded by fire and light, which for those of us looking on YouTube, if you looked at it kind of like an angle, you would see something like this. Well, maybe, but you get the idea. Four angels at four corner, all being cherub. And now Ezekiel describes the faces as being next to one another. So, like the bull on the right, the man's face, then the lion on the left, and then the eagle presumably on the back of the head, right? So they're all next to one another. So here it is. What if the prophet was facing the throne in such a way that he was only able to make out one of each face? So that looking at it, he could only see like straight on the man's face from one angle, the eagle's face from another, the lion's face, and then the bull's face at a particular angle. And because the light and everything else they was looking at could only make out one side of each of the four faces of the beast. And then for the wings, Ezekiel said that the cherub only actually used two to fly, while the other two covered its body. It could have been maybe that there were four wings and that four of its wings were covering the body, overlapping to look like two. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Eh, It's hard to say with looking from a different angle because normally if I'm looking at something from a different angle, I don't think this full or multiple of a thing from a different angle sometime. Or
Yeah.
at
Well,
least
well, remember this is four beasts that he's describing, and like each one is four faces that we see with the cherub, only not combined. So my thought was, would because the cherub are supposed to be kind of a square formation, so could it be possible that he's looking at where he's only seeing one of each face? Because while that would be a bit tricky, you could kind of see how it could be angled like that. Bear in mind, though, it would be tricky. I admit that. Like I'm giving a possible explanation, but again, it's just that's a
well,
thought.
we gotta
So,
look to our friends at Ancient Aliens to see what they
oh,
think of
for
all.
frack's sake, Ancient Aliens thinks this is a propeller.
The whole thing?
Yeah, remember we did that in the last episode, the spaceship thing.
Yeah, but I mean that that was using a different verse. I don't think that was also using the Revelation verse as well.
They don't use the Revelation verse. They only use Ezekiel.
Well, see, there's the problem.
Ancient Aliens is a problem.
They gotta use.
Okay, they're all nonsense. Again, they piss me off so much because like when I had to do this stuff, I had to fact check. Like I had to give so many facts, show sources and all this. They just get to make up nonsense. And even when all the experts say they're full of crap, they still get an entire series on a show that's gone on for way too bloody long, by the way. I'm not a fan of Ancient Aliens.
Neither am I. I think it's funny more than anything.
No, it's funny. It's a good waste of time, but yeah, it ticks me off. But I don't know. Zed, what do you think? You think seeing these, because like I said, four beasts all had four faces. Do you think it's possible maybe it could be if like you sat at just the right angle, you'd only be able to see one of each face, or do you think that's just nonsense? Zed?
Probably.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess it depends.
Yeah, I guess so.
You know what? Now I'm thinking it's gonna be like, well, I'll say once we get to who's that Pokemon Because now I'm thinking almost like a case of the Pokemon where, because they described, I think it was, what was it, the cherub or whatever was the one that had all of these heads.
Yes,
Because these each head is, represented, would be technically on one cherub. What's the
correct.
name of the do they give a name to the Revelation angels other than the
Okay,
beasts?
so no, I don't think they're actually called the beasts. I believe they're called the four living creatures, which is why people also, which also makes people think of the cherub because remember the cherubs are also called the living creatures as well.
Maybe. So this is me going out, also throwing video game logic in this.
Go
I don't
for it.
know if you remember Dark Souls.
Mostly,
There was a boss called the Four Kings,
vaguely.
where basically it was a being that was full souls that was both combined into one and separate at the same time. So essentially, you had a situation where it could be, one being with full heads, each head facing an opposite direction type deal. Or they could split apart and it would be full beings, um, each, still technically the same being, just split into full. I'm wondering if it's something like that going on here, where it's essentially.
Hmm.
Now, I don't know why the wing counts would be, why they would each get more wings when they split versus when they're together, but.
Yeah, I mean that's it's not a bad thought because cherub are supposed to be guardians. So
Well, I think that we're also thinking about this. We're still trying to find logic to this, but at this point, I'm like, yeah, we're angels.
yeah, no, that's the thing. Like again, like that's what we're looking through the entire book of Ezekiel was basically someone trying to desperately describe something logically that was, let's face it, illogical.
Well, with a lot of things, a lot of the cryptids and myths that we went over
Yeah,
this entire podcast, you can find some relation to like real world object, animals, plants, location, what have you. Like the beasts of Troy. Look like a upside down crocodile skull. Mermaids, dugongs, unicorns. You got the narwhals and stuff.
yeah.
But with angels, there's a clear like was what type of angel was the real angel was seen?
Oh, the Ophium.
Ophium, like the Ophium. That doesn't sound like any living thing that we've seen. That sounds like an eldritch horror.
Yeah, and the fact that they're supposed to be full of eyes just like
Those
makes it
all
even
sound like
stranger.
eldritch horrors. Like if you were
They
asking me
really
to,
do.
like if you described the angel to me without giving me context, I would think you're telling me a Lovecraftian story.
Yeah, actually, we're gonna be looking more of that later. So yeah, no, I'd have to agree with that.
So like with like a lot of these angels at this point, I think what like trying to give them like, I know the classic appearance of angel is wings and a mane. I think we need to think more Cthulhu.
I mean, maybe like, well, actually, we'll look into that a little further. Maybe not Cthulhu, but something equally
Well,
horrifying.
essentially, I'm thinking almost eldritch being at this point of something just looking at would drive people mad because they can't comprehend the form itself. Which, again, if I recall, there's a lot of chapters that describe the form of God and the Holy Spirit and angels and the throne as if you look upon it, you go mad or you die.
Yes. In fact, God mentions to I forget who exactly that if you look upon me, you will die.
And not to mention, it was the same case with the Ark of the Covenant, if memory serves correctly. Is if you didn't properly go through the proper ritual before opening it, you would die.
Yes, and if you touched it without
Purifying
various
yourself,
rituals and purifying yourself and everything else, you would die, which is actually what happened to
several
someone
people.
when the ark was about. Yeah, the ark was about, but most famously when the ark was about to fall over, someone reached out to keep it from falling over, and he instantly died.
Yes.
Which I'm not gonna lie, I studied the Ark of the Covenant, and I actually thought, based on its design, that it might be able to work as technically a large capacitor or even a Faraday cage. But honestly, based on how it's designed, there's two things that just get rid of that whole thing, which if we ever get bored, we'll take a look at one time. But I'm not going to go into that right now. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. So yeah, angels are they are very awe-inspiring in that they are probably terrifying to behold. Like absolutely horrifying in every way. And I actually want to keep this motif a bit more because it's going to touch on another angel we're going to be looking at. Um, but I did want to kind of explain that. Like I said, I don't know about the four beasts exactly because as of course these could be entirely different entities altogether for all we know. And
Yes.
as everyone is used to hearing, the Bible does not offer any specifics. So unfortunately, it's left up to interpretation, hence the debate. Like maybe Revelation is one book of the Bible that really shouldn't be there, and they just add it because they were looking for an ending. Maybe it is true. Maybe it was a mix-up. Like we don't know. That's the very base of it. I tend to stick with Ezekiel a bit more because the book of Ezekiel, is more verified thanks to things like the Dead Sea Scrolls and other things to being a better representation of what was originally written than Revelation, as it was written later on. Because this is supposed to be by either John, the apostle of Jesus, or by John the Elder. So it's definitely going to be later. So, but it's hard to know for sure, and that's again the debate. And it is nowhere close to the only debate, which is actually another thing we're going to look at, which this one is a little less crazy, but something I want to mention because, well, I just thought it was worth mentioning because I promised to be thorough in this. While the angels like Michael, Gabriel, and perhaps even Lucifer are mentioned in the Bible, there is a claim that there is one other angel that might be mentioned. Go ahead and switch it. And this is called the angel of the Lord. Yeah. Okay. So you're both probably going, huh?
Isn't that
And
all angel?
okay. So look, personally, I think this one is a bit of a reach. But again, I promised I was going to be thorough in this, so I'm going to at least mention this. But basically, the argument is that when the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, mentions the angel of the Lord, it is referring to a singular angel. And others say even possibly the preborn Christ. Now, this theory mostly becomes about because the term angel of the Lord appears very frequently in the Old Testament and then basically abruptly stops when we reach the New Testament. So the argument is that this is one particular angel being sent over and over again, and it was one of God's most trusted angels. Another argument is that this was actually Michael before it was revealed that it was Michael. Again, I personally don't put much merit into this, but what do y'all think?
Eh, I mean, is this just whenever they say use the phrase "angel of the Lord"?
Yes.
See, I always took that as just a general an angel of the Lord, essentially.
Yeah, that again, that's how I took it. But like I said, I was going to be thorough. I promised at the start of this series I was going to be thorough and describe every point of view, and this is a point of view, so I behoove to at least mention it.
Yeah, for me, yeah, I never put much stock in it just being because I'm thinking, I'm trying to remember how for Sodom and Gomorrah do they use the angel of the Lord there?
No, there were two angels
Well,
who went to
that's what I
Sodom and Gomorrah.
meant. It's like because if so, that's a situation that debunk it because there was two angels there technically, not just one.
Yeah, but like I think there was the angel of the Lord that he spoke to before they sent the two, so that would be the one he's talking about, and then the other two were lower class angels, I guess. Though who still had the power to blind people, so nothing to
Scoff at.
snark at. Yeah, it's like which we'll actually mention. Like I said, this will be our final like real look at biblical canon, but There are some other things in the Bible about angels, but most of them are repeats of what we've already talked about. But we will be mentioning a few things going back to kind of compare it to Bible. So we will still be mentioning a bit, but this is the last one where we're strictly going to focus on biblical canon, just to be clear. But yeah, so again, I don't put much stock in this. Zed, do you think there's anything really to this?
Not really.
Yeah, like it's a bit of a stretch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to mention
So
it went from Hebrew, so it could just technically be a bad translation that people are referring to.
yeah, but like I literally just think it's like talking about there was an angel because again, only two angels are really named in the Bible.
Yeah,
So
what, Michael and Lucifer, I believe.
no, Michael and Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Lucifer's a big maybe.
Okay.
Remember we did that whole discussion.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you can see why I had trouble categorizing this, and I wasn't really sure where to put it. But if it is one single angel, it's not the only nameless angel given special attention to. One which is given even more detail, but detail not to its actions, but its physical appearance, is the angel mentioned in the book of Daniel. Go ahead and switch. Now, the verse in question is Daniel 10:4 through 7, which reads, "On the 24th day of the first month, as I was standing on the bank of the great river, the Tigris, I looked up, and there before me was a man dressed in linen, with a belt of fine gold from Uphaz around his waist. His body was like beryl, his face was like lightning, his eyes like flaming torches, his arms and legs like the gleam of burnished bronze, and his voice like the sound of multitude." So now this is an angel, and I want you to actually remember all of your Lovecraftian nightmare stuff, Shadow R Fox, because this might be a good time to put it into action, because this is a very strange being. Um, so okay, so most of the translations talk about his body was like beryl. Now, for those of you who don't know, beryl is a type of gemstone that is a typically green gemstone. However, here's the thing. The translation of beryl is a little weird. It can also mean topaz, which has some use. I believe the one you looked up said topaz, correct?
It was New and National version, so I think
Yeah,
yeah, it was
didn't it say
Topaz.
topaz?
It was
Yeah.
Topaz.
So the reason for that is the translation's a bit basically it's precious gem. So that's what they're trying to say. Its body was like a precious gem, and that's the thing. Beryl, topaz, and these other gems can basically be a multitude of colors. So that's actually completely useless as far as figuring out what the angel's body looked like, as it was literally any color possible. I know, very helpful, right?
Oh yeah.
So, but from these we get some interesting images, and most of them, because of this, bring up what you see here for those of you looking on YouTube, which is this kind of beryl green gemstone looking thing. Now, yeah, it is a bit bizarre. I admit that, but that's what we mostly get. And the limbs of bronze, it's a weird color combination, and I don't know. I've never what like what how would you even describe like what you're currently seeing on the screen with the more green look?
Yeah, I'm thinking the. I'm surprised the ancient alien people aren't using this as see, it's proof that there was like cyborgs or something. Because the first thing that I think of when they say the what was the arms and legs of bronze, that made me think. I'm surprised there's not a bunch of ancient alien people saying this is the first prosthetic or something like that.
Right? Actually, I've wondered that too. Like, how come they've never looked at Talos? Which Talos is a Greek myth, but you know what? That might be an interesting video because I've been looking into that one, but we might do that in the future. Um, so again, green is kind of what Beryl think of, but again, the translation could basically just have meant any color gem. So it could be a better fitting color, but you still have the bronze limbs, which still makes a very strange image, whatever the color you choose for the body. Which go ahead and switch, because then if you do change it up for the body, you still get weird images like these, because the brawn limbs just look attached. Like even if you go for a more fiery thing, and yeah, I noticed. Shadow R Fox, what did you use for the angels again?
So for the previous image, that was the one where I used the old King James version where it
No,
used
no, I mean, what was the AI thing you used?
the exact same thing as the only thing was I think I was using the NIV version, the New International version. So it was using bronze rather than I think it was using
Yeah,
bronze and topaz rather than just beryl.
yeah, but as you can see, like it's still weird. Like the bronze limbs look kind of attached to. They look very out of place, however you look at it, right?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to actually now check.
Because with the one, for those of you looking on YouTube, the image on our left, um, it's more uniform through, because just making the body a gemstone with bronze limbs gets rather confusing and weird. So that's where we get these kind of strange images. That's why this image actually, while people have done a lot of images of the cherub and other things, they don't do a lot of images of Daniel, because it is so bizarre to look at. And Shadow Artifacts, were you looking up something?
No, I was trying to look up that particular verse again because I think I got what version do I have? Oh, sorry, this was also NIV. So, oh,
Okay.
here we
But
go. Bronze. No way, that's a different one. Nah, well,
yeah. Well, now as I said, the translation can be a bit funny here, not just in regard to the body, but the limbs. While the vast majority of translations say bronze, they vary on the adjective to describe them. Most of them is polished in one translation, but it's also burnished, which is basically the same thing. But based on the time frame, and I was given this, maybe it was possible that burnish could also mean, in a sense, purified, which may imply a forging purification or a furnace look. You know, the bright yellow orange we see in heated metals. And if this could possibly be a more accurate description, the angel will end up looking more like this in the next slide, which, besides looking a little bit better, I think makes sense due to the angels typically being associated with fire. And most of these things we've been talking about, the angels and Ezekiel and everything else, have been associated with fire or lightning. So it makes more sense for, if the body is a topaz, which is a kind of orangish gem like thing, burnished metal or the bright yellow orange that would be gotten from forged bronze, like we see as well, would actually fit and look better with the angel's overall body, and even fit with the more lightning faces, the flaming eyes. What do you guys think?
hmm. I mean, yeah, colors the same, but that's the thing. They don't really describe this well enough for us.
No, but like based on the description we have, lightning face, body like a precious gem, and if it's limbs like purified or burning bronze, it would probably look something more like this, and at least the color schemes would seem to match a little bit more. Um, which this thing, in my opinion, looks a little bit more complete with it, though I will also admit, and I know I've said this before, this image does give me the creeps. I don't know why, but there is something I find slightly unsettling about it.
It's looking at you.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, with those dead eyes.
It's not even dead eyes, they're just red like torches. Though I think the overall bronze limbs came out pretty well. But that's neither here or there. But I was thinking, if angels look more like this, based in fire and flame and light, I mean, that's slightly different from the Cthulhu Craftian nightmares, but these things would still be fairly intimidating things to see.
I mean, I
Like
don't know if this is too far away from the Cthulian nightmare because they got limbs of bronze, which could mean anything from just colored limbs to possibly robotic tails, or I should say not robotic tails, but robotic limbs. Um, if we're going with the whole ancient alien crap,
true.
um, we yeah, it's just kind of all over the place because like the glow to a head, the what was it, head like eyes like torches,
A face of lightning and head like and eyes like
like
torches.
face of like. I'm surprised Ancient Alien haven't had a field day calling this thing a robot because that sounds like you're describing some type of mailman to me. You have limbs. Each of its limbs is made of bronze. It's like a gem. It has face like lightning, and it has eyes like torches. That sounds like a robot with like red eyes and an electric, surge going across his what you would perceive as his head, and its limbs are made out of like a bronze-like metal, or at least got bronze-like color to it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm surprised they haven't went off on this thing.
I mean, look, I don't understand. Maybe Ancient Aliens just has. Like, do you know how many seasons of Ancient Aliens there are?
Yeah, but they always do the same thing.
Do they? I don't know. I've watched a few episodes just for the fun of it.
I figure it's like the Bigfoot TV series where they do the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, you're probably right. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't watched a lot of episodes. There's a few episodes that I find ridiculous enough that they're kind of fun, like the whole pyramid power thing, where the pyramids generate electrical beams, or the obelisks were Tesla coils, and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Anybody who thinks an obelisk is a Tesla coil does not have any clue how a Tesla coil works. I mean, I'm sorry. How are you going to make a giant quartz crystal into a Tesla? Like, do you know how wrong that is? Like, how many things you would need to do to make a quartz crystal into a Tesla coil besides completely defying all the laws of physics?
It's the new EV.
Well, okay. So anyway, I think this image more closely represents what this thing may look like, mostly because of the fire thing. Because as I said, most of the time we've seen that there is an association between angels and fire in the Bible. That these almost seem like creatures made of fire or light. When you think, based on what we've gone through,
Yeah, that or some type of metal now.
some kind of energy, I'd say. I've often wondered, like, if the bronze limbs actually comes from. What if again they're made of light and fire, and the bronze is actually their limbs interacting with the elements in our atmosphere, creating a look like things getting stuck. But then why wouldn't it appear on the torso? So I don't know. It was just a thought. Again, I have no real clue like this is. I have one other theory about it, but I'm actually going to save that for later in this series, which will be a bit more fun, but it's going to be farther down the road. But we'll bookmark this for that time. So, anything else you guys want to add as far as the Angel of Daniel goes,
Eldritch horror.
besides Eldritch Horror?
I mean, to be fair,
Zed, any thoughts?
No, no.
I'm sorry, Shadow Fox, I interrupted you. What?
no, I'm gonna be like, to be fair, most angels are eldritch horrors.
They really are. They are terrifying. It's like no wonder they have to say, "Don't be afraid." Ugh. Okay, so with this brings us to our final being. I'm gonna specifically say being, which has confused people for ages, as no one is sure if this thing is even an angel, and that is the flaming sword.
Now,
And this is mentioned. Sorry, what?
I thought the flame again. I haven't read Jensen in a long time. I thought the flaming sword was given to an angel.
No, actually. This is mentioned only once in the Bible in Genesis 3:24. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims. and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. No, it says here, and I've looked up every single version of this phrase. Not one does it say that the flaming sword was given to a cherub. It
No,
actually says the flaming sword was put in the way, and it almost seems animated in its own.
but but again, he also placed besides the flaming sword a cherub.
Two cherubs at each side. So
Yes.
there's two cherubs, and in the middle is this flaming sword that is apparently spinning in every which way.
Is it two? Because I see where you say he placed on the east side of the Garden of Eden
Yeah,
cherub.
because remember, cherubims is plural for cherub. Cherub is singular, cherubims is plural.
Okay, because I know like east side is supposed to be front technically.
Yeah, but no, it says cherubims right there. Cherubims is the plural of cherub. So that means two. So, yeah, which goes back to cherub being guardian angels. And yeah, so the flaming sword has fascinated and baffled experts for ages. From the description, we're told frustratingly little. That this is a flaming sword which appears to turn on its own in every direction. So, does that make it look like a giant flaming ball in front of the entrance of the Garden of Eden, where it's just going every which way in a big fiery, like gyroscope thing of horror? I'm asking.
A
Like what?
lightsaber.
A lightsaber?
A flaming
Really?
sword. What's the first thing that come to your mind? A lightsaber.
Lightsabers are, well, at best they'd be plasma, which technically, yes, fire is a form of
There we
plasma,
go.
but ha- spinning every which way.
So, remember, I mentioned
God.
to you there was a Sith who became so powerful they never used their hand to move the lightsaber. They used the Force, and it was
Oddly enough, as soon as I said that, I knew this was coming. I was just like, why did I do this?
what was it? Sith Keita. Oh yeah, I think Lady Keita or something like that, who could literally manipulate up to 3 lightsabers at once, and it would spin and move in any direction. So what I'm hearing is it's a flaming sword of the Force, and it's a lightsaber. Which now, using that logic, the cherubims are Jedi's,
I knew that was coming. I knew it was coming.
which means Lucifer's the first Sith. It's all coming together now. So the demons, ancient aliens had it wrong. They thought the angels were aliens.
Okay,
The
this
demons are the
worries me.
angels.
You do realize that Jediism is a recognized religion, right?
And
You
that's
are
why.
you might be creating the actual lore to Jediism.
I think we got it wrong. I think we were trying to separate. It's all one.
Oh,
Christianity and Jedi's. We're trying to ascend to become Jedi's. So it's like
I feel like
Obi-Wan a
this is some
prophet
form of blasphemy.
or an apostle?
This is some form of blasphemy. I'm sure of it.
Oh, I'm pretty sure they're like already carving a new level of hell for myself. But
Okay, so believe it or not, you're not the craziest thought to have about this. There have been other thoughts. For instance, some have mentioned that flaming sword is supposed to be Christ, and they base this off various things where God's in the whole Ephesians where take up the word and the word is a sword, and the word burns, and that can be flaming sword, which honestly I think is a very weak argument.
that's
They've also said it was, yeah, that's a huge stretch. I think it's an extremely weak argument. It's based off 3 different verses that they kind of Frankenstein together. So I think that's a stretch. There's also that this is Michael's sword, which there is no biblical evidence for that. And then it's also possibly God's divine judgment. Like I said, the Bible gives frustrating little on this, and this is the only time it's mentioned. But as I said, it's It is not a weapon that is given to the cherub or to a cherubim like many people believe. It is something that is put in between cherubs to guard the entrance, and it's constantly spinning and turning on itself, looking in all directions so that no one can get through. So I don't. For all we know, Shadow R Fox could be right. Maybe it does look like a lightsaber spinning a giant gyroscope uh like form. We don't know. So we don't even know what it looks like. Maybe it looks like the awesome picture I found, or perhaps it is made of fire completely, like the Balrog sword in Lord of the Rings. It's unclear. Zed, when you hear this, like, what image comes to your mind?
What, a fire sword?
Well, of a flaming sword which turned every way to keep mankind away from the tree of life, essentially. What, like a flaming sword which turns every way?
In all honesty, my mind is jumping to the sword handle that Aang had in Avatar when they got to the Fire Nation. That it was a sword handle that you're meant to make a fire sword out of using firebending.
He had that?
Yes, but Aang grabbed it to use it with airbending to make an air sword. It was the episode where Sokka needed a master and he went to the sword master.
I do not remember that.
No, but that was
I remember
a thing.
the episode where Sokka went to the master. I don't remember Aang doing that.
No, it was when they were in the shop and Sokka noticed the sword. Aang had on that ridiculous suit of armor. It was the sword. He also had a sword handle.
Yeah. Now I remember. Oh, I forgot about it. Oh, is that what that why they had a handle there?
Yeah.
Yep, that was what that was there for.
Oh, God, I thought it was just
it was there so you could make a sword using firebending, and Aang figured, well, maybe I can do that with air.
Oh, yeah. God, I completely forgot about that. Again, that's the 10% of my memory I forget. Now I remember.
Maybe it's a
You're right.
blowtorch. Now that I think about it, the flaming sword, maybe it's just an overglorified blowtorch.
Oh, you mean like Hacksmith's lightsaber?
Yeah. I literally just started thinking, like, is it Hacksmith lightsaber?
I'm sorry for all of you Hacksmith fans out there. Look, I love the show. I really do. But their lightsaber, it is just a steampunk blowtorch. It looks awesome. It's an awesome steampunk blowtorch, but it is a blowtorch. I'm sorry. If I go up against someone with that and I have a real sword, I'm going to win. Tell me I'm wrong. You both have used swords. Am I wrong?
Well, yeah, you would have to hold it in place long enough for it to actually cut through the sword.
Yeah, and like basically what happens is he tries to block with that thing. It doesn't do anything because it's a blowtorch. My sword goes through it very quickly. At best, it may heat up the sword so that I burn you while slicing you in half.
Well, at least you cauterized the wound for him.
Yeah, the small piece of it, but more than likely, I swing the sword so fast, it doesn't even have time to heat up. You know, it's like running your hand through a candle really fast. So, either way, I'm sorry, it's nonsense, and the fact that it's called a lightsaber irks me. Because again, I like Hacksmith, I really do. They make some cool stuff. But it's not a lightsaber, it's a blowtorch. Like, I'm sorry, it is. But, yeah, so, who knows? I mean, these are all theories, and at this point in time, they're all equally valid. But angel or divine weapon, the flaming sword remains a unique feature of the divine. And with that, there's only one point of like angelic biblical canon that I want to make and talk about. And seeing as it's more of a really kind of heavy topic, I think I'm going to take a pause and hand it over to Zed for a little bit of levity and see if we have any possible sword Pokemon, he said in slight disgust. Take it away.
Well, yeah, because there's... Actually, would there technically be 4 since Doublade... No, it's only 3.
There's technically 3, but there's 2 forms for the last
There's
one.
2 forms of Aegislash, but would it technically be 4 because on Doublade there's 2 of them?
Okay, I thought there was only 1. How are there 3 or 4-ish? How are there so many?
It's simple. The one with the blue turns into the 2 with the pink, and then the 2 with the pink turns into the giant one that has a shield.
How is anything you said simple?
And there's two forms of the one with the
But-
shield. You can either
right,
have the
and
shield
then-
in front or the shield
And then
on the
he can
side.
either have the shield in front or, use the fact his body, which is a sword.
How is any of that simple?
I fail to see what you're missing.
Wait. Why? Why does a sword have a shield? Like,
Well, what else is it going to use to defend itself?
but it's a sword with a shield and then a fan in its sword hand.
Yeah, how else is it going to grab the shield?
But the other hand doesn't do anything.
Well,
And
yeah,
then it's got
but
this weird thing where it's put both hands out so that it has this weird pattern.
it has to be symmetrical.
But it looks like a Zelda icon.
Well, Nintendo
actually, it
also
kinda
makes Zelda,
does.
so
Yeah, okay, makes sense. None of this makes sense.
I fail to see what doesn't make sense.
I mean, like the first one, does it unsheath itself when it attacks, or is that just how it is?
Yes, actually, it unsheathes itself when it goes into battle.
So what happens to the sheath? It just hangs there?
No, it holds it with its hand, the blue thing.
So, okay, can the trainer wield it like a sword, or does it not like that?
No, this is the world of Pokemon. Why would you ever wield a weapon? A weapon is technically an animal.
I mean, I feel like if Team Rocket ever actually wanted to be really effective, you just give them some guns and like they'd be the most effective terror thing on the planet.
They still
Funnily
haven't
enough,
made
there
a
were guns
gun
in the Pokemon episode,
yet.
but Team Rocket didn't use them.
Yeah, well, imagine if Team Rocket had guns. Like, I'm sorry, Charizard's
Team
awesome.
Rocket, the
but,
gun would jam and it would blow up in their hand.
Okay, fair enough, but like, you send like a bunch of people with guns against a Charizard. I guarantee you the Charizard is going down.
They still haven't made a gun Pokemon yet.
They made a pie Pokemon.
Actually, technically, they did with the new game. They gave a Pokemon.
Oh, come on!
Which one?
They gave Zygarde a cannon.
Well, a cannon, yeah, but remember, there's been Pokemon with cannon, that dragon Pokemon that looked like a bridge.
Are Charlotte? Well, no, it just uses its power like it's a freaking railgun.
Yeah, well, a rail gun, so technically, yes.
Well, that's the closest. You're not going to get them actually putting a standard handgun.
Well, I mean, they did it with Digimon.
That's Digimon!
I mean, argument, if you think Pokemon evolution is strange, Digimon evolution is like, okay.
No, Digimon is just like, what the F is going on?
I'm going to have a dog turn into a tiger, the tiger turn into a robot, and then the robot turn into a giant battle tank with a gun.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how a marshmallow turns into a small dinosaur, which turns into a bigger dinosaur with a skull cap, then turns into a metal dinosaur, which then turns into a dragon killer, which then turns into a skeleton, which then turns into 3 other things that I don't understand, and then there's dark forms, apparently.
Yep. Yeah,
Digimon's bizarre.
Yeah, all the angel forms for the Digimon fit so well no matter which evolution.
One of them's from a little orange fluff ball with wings on its head.
Yep, and another one's from a cat.
How does that in any way fit? And the cat becomes a human in lingerie, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
Way too many Digimon start looking like humans with lingerie, and it's slightly creepy.
No, they knew who they were appealing to. They knew their demographics. Young boys watch Digimon, and oh, surprise, surprise, the Digimon become beautiful women.
Okay.
I wonder what's going on there. I don't know. It's a big mystery. I don't know what's going on. It's a mystery.
Okay, I walked into that one.
Just think about who Digimon was made for. It's like you have a companion, and the companion become one of two things at its final evolution: a hot woman or a badass creature that looked like a 13-year-old wet dream of a angel with a hyper gun and a tank for an arm and a dinosaur for a head, and it all makes sense.
I mean, yeah, I guess when you think about it, that is kind
Like,
of
just,
on the nose,
I mean,
isn't it?
you seen the original Digimon cartoon, right?
Yes.
Remember that the two main characters, Digimon, one of them became a metallic dragon that could summon, like, essentially its main attack was using a giant sun and tossing it at you. The other one became a metal werewolf that could freeze you to sub-zero. Like,
Yeah, like just thinking about it, that's every guy's like dream monster. I mean, basically the whole thing is that what better than like being able to have your own monster that you can control?
yeah. And
I
it
mean,
made
yeah,
sense when they started introducing the female characters. What type of Digimon did they introduce? A Dracula. How many romance novels are there at Barnes and Noble that have a Dracula in it?
so goddamn. Many.
Uh-huh. They knew who they were appealing to. Digimon knew their core audience.
Tell me about seriously. What is it with women and the vampire fascination?
You mean, what is it with women and the monster romance novels?
I
I'm being
know.
tame when
What?
I say Dracula. I've seen the newest book I seen come out that another woman brought up in a YouTube video saying this is weird. A woman getting in a relationship with a minotaur.
Yeah, what the hell is up with women and the monsters? Like, is this just like the latest evolution of the bad boy fetish? Like, is this Beauty and the Beast on steroids?
I don't ever want to hear any woman complain when I say, hey, I want my character in my video game to be attractive and have big breasts or something like that. I want to hear anyone complain when I hear, oh, you're reading, what's your book about? Oh, the guy's a minotaur? Uh-huh. He's how tall? It used how many paragraphs to describe its lower half? Oh, that many. Uh-huh. That's several pages. I said paragraph, not pages. Why are you doing this to me? It goes into detail. Oh, thank you. I didn't need to know how many veins. Oh, God, no. I wish I was joking.
I know
That's
you're
actually
not
how
joking.
the conversation went.
I know you're not joking. Ugh, it's so true because I know you're telling the truth because I've talked to people who have this. I don't get the monster thing. I've never understood
Look,
it. Like,
I understand the monster thing. I actually do
I
understand it. I understand it just because we got the monster Musume. That's a manga and anime where it's like My Life with Monster Girl, where it's literally the reverse, where it's a guy going after a bunch of, like you got the Medusa, the Lemuria.
is that the one with the girl who's like half snake?
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the
yeah.
name of it. So it's like, I get, but to be fair, in the guy's defense, it looked more human than the woman version does.
Yeah.
I've seen the cover art for those women monster books. There's nothing human about those creatures.
No, I know what you're talking about. Again, it's the Beauty and the Beast thing taken to extremes. And like the Beauty and the Beast thing was already extreme. But I don't know. I mean, to be fair, Beauty and the Beast was based off a true story.
So, to circle this back around to Flaming Sword, I think this was written by a woman.
How the hell did you come to that?
How did we loop to this?
Because to loop it back around, I think only a woman could have came up with with all of these strange monster When we get to Revelation, we get to several animals that are strange that yet still have human-like qualities. I'm like, a woman wrote this.
I challenged that on a few of them. But
Joanna was the name, I think. I think they got John. They just was saving face. It was Joanna.
I could actually challenge this, but I'm going to refuse to challenge this and simply move on. So anyway, sword Pokemon and women's monster fetish, which I don't. How exactly did we get on that topic?
Digimon.
Yeah, that explains it. Okay, so Zed, did you have anything more to mention with the swords?
Does it Pokédex really say anything that? Because I don't think it ever do use any fire attacks. No, wait.
No, oh no, it's steel type. This thing will die the moment it's hit by a flame.
Wasn't it Ghost Steel?
Bummer.
Yeah, it's Ghost Steel.
Yeah.
What the hell is Ghost Steel?
Ghost type and the Steel type.
It's typings. It's Ghost and Steel type.
How's it a ghost type? Is it a
Because it's
possessed
a
sword?
spirit possessing a sword.
Yeah, it's a Ghost
Oh.
Blade.
Actually, you know what? That actually makes it more tolerable.
Because I think,
Okay, note to self: lead with that next time.
wasn't it?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
We might have avoided the whole creepy monster fetish.
Wasn't
You
it?
and I both know we wouldn't have avoided that.
Wasn't the
know.
Pokédex entry like it was a blade that was possessed by like a spirit of a Pokemon or something like that? Or
Hang on, I will find its dex entry real quick.
yeah, because I vaguely recall the Dex entry was something like it was a old blade that it was either an old blade that was around so long it gained a spirit that became a Pokemon, or it was possessed by a Pokemon spirit. One of the two. Because I think if it's
Its first Pokedex entry says apparently this Pokemon is born when a departed spirit inhabits a sword. It attaches itself to people and drinks their life force.
okay, so spirit attaching itself to an item.
Yes, and I believe that's Hone Edge. I believe Aegis Slash, the final form, mentioned how. Oh yeah, generations of kings were attended by these Pokemon, which use spectral power to
I think you were
manipulate
cutting
and
out there a
control
little bit, Zed.
Pokemon.
Sorry, Zed, you cut out a little bit.
Essentially, generations of kings had Aegis Slashes, and the Aegis Slashes would use their power to manipulate and control people and other things.
Okay. Makes sense.
So
Not
mind
really,
control.
but I'm.
Yeah, and apparently also, it said that a king with an Aegis Slash reigned over a land, and eventually the Aegis Slash drained him of his life, and the kingdom fell with it.
Okay.
So an evil stone in the I mean sword in the stone.
Pretty much. There you go.
Sure. Why not? Why not? Okay. You know what? I say it every time, and every time I stand by it. Pokemon is weird.
Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, no shit.
Okay. So now the final thing that deserves note in the greatest evidence to angels' possession of free will is that being the rebellion in heaven. Go ahead and switch to the final slide. Okay, so even atheists are aware of this event in the Bible where a third of the angels, led by Satan, rebelled and were cast out of heaven. Now, how exactly they thought they were going to win with only a third of, the entire army of angels is beyond me, but it is what it is. Now, it makes sense if they choose to rebel against God. That it makes sense if these angels chose to rebel against God, then logically they must have possessed some form of free will, right? That makes sense because, like, if you don't have some form of choice, you can't really choose to rebel, right?
Yeah.
Right. But it is not in their choice to rebel that I want to question. Instead, I want to ask about a more nuanced topic of free will with respect to angels versus humans. And that is, can the fallen be redeemed? Now, it's well known that humans can be redeemed. There's plenty of instances in the Bible and real life about humans being redeemed by God, but can angels be redeemed? Now, I think... Yeah, now, this is an interesting question. And one of the things that... a lot of people say no, and the reason that they say no is that there are differences between angels and humans. One of the big differences is because, one, Angels live forever, so they're eternal. But also, and more importantly, they know that there is a God. They know that there's divine. Now, what do I mean by this? Is that it's a common thought about free will that we don't really think about. Is that everything in this world has a price. So free will in itself has a price, and most people don't think about this. What exactly is free will? Like, if someone asked you what is free will, how would you define it?
The ability to act to your own accords or guidance without something else influencing you directly or compelling you directly to do something.
That's correct. Zed, do you have a different definition, or?
No, that was about what I was going to say.
Yes, it is the ability to make a decision without external influence. And be honest, if you knew like 100%, no doubt, that there was a God and that you could basically go visit him in town square and you knew he was watching you, everything else, is there any decision you could make that would not be influenced by that knowledge, by knowing that there is 100% absolutely sure a God?
Um, what's funny, Archimage, is this was actually something I was gonna bring up in one of our podcasts. Is what if we knew there was God and he's right over there. We can give the city where he's at. How would that change humanity?
Yeah,
Oh,
actually.
if we looked up in the sky and there's a hole in the sky and that hole directly window into hell. We can see it. Lucifer's literally looking down at us. How would that change people's decision in day-to-day life if every time they look up they see hell?
Well, yeah, because that's the thing. No matter what, it would influence every decision we make, right?
For the
how
better
could
or
it
for the
not?
worse, that's a debate.
For the better, that's a debate, but it would. But the point is, it would influence it. That's my point I'm making, is that it would influence it.
We would be very religious very quickly. I know that much.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Like
every country would become a theocracy overnight.
Overnight. Like no, within the hour.
We would run our fresh water from all the baptisms. We would have to take a fire hose and just mass convert people.
Mass baptism, mass conversions, and that's the point, though, is that every decision we make would be based with that knowledge. Would be, before we made any decision, we go, wait a minute, God's watching, God's over there, God's that, which people who are believers already do. But that's my point, is that with free will, there's that price. So that's the thing. The angels already knew that God existed 100%. They knew what it meant to rebel, and yet they did it. So could that somehow play into their inability to be redeemed?
See, I always thought it was something else. What had me
I'm not sure. So again, there's no right or wrongs in this.
I always, for me, I always saw angels as the servants of God.
Yes.
Because they're allowed in his presence. They are made to do his task directly. They are essentially given his task directly from him, where we're usually given information from God secondhand from the angels. I mean, the closest we ever came was with Moses and the burning bush.
There are a few other instances in the Bible, but yes, your point still stands.
It's always usually secondhand, or it's through some type of object. Maybe I think the closest was someone got through like a dream or a vision.
Yes, like I said, there's about 3 instances where God talks directly,
and it's
3 or 4.
extremely compared to all the other instances where it's an angel or through an object.
Yes, it's very rare. That's what I'm saying. No, you're mostly right. There's very few instances where it's God directly.
I always saw the angels as the servants to God, and almost in the sense of they. Until the rebellion happened, I didn't think they had free will. I thought they was essentially automaton in all things considered of how they acted and behaved, because they basically just did everything God said without question.
Well, but if they're automatons, then they couldn't have rebelled in the first place.
Well, I said until the rebellion. Then it was the rebellion. Then I'm like, okay, well then that it's clear some level of corruption occurred. And it's almost there was a line in Genesis, and I'm trying to find it,
Well,
where
I believe most said that the corruption was pride.
well, yeah, that was for Lucifer
Yeah,
specifically for his corruption, and
and that a third of the angels joined him. So basically, like pride corrupted a third of heaven.
because it
Which, to be fair, only a third. That's not that bad.
essentially with the tree, I figure it had something to do with the tree of life, because yeah, it was always a passage. This always struck me as very weird. Genesis 3:22, when the Lord God said, "The man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever."
Yes.
And that always struck me as weird, because I'm like, okay, before we had the tree of knowledge, we had no concept of good and evil. We essentially, my understanding was, humanity didn't even have free will,
Right.
essentially. Or if we did, it was
Well,
in a very limited capacity, like a child, and with God being a parent, of you have as much free will as a child does, which
well, yeah, because you got to remember, like with Adam and Eve were not born; they were
they
created.
were
They didn't
made,
have a childhood. They were created as full blown adults.
which also
They were
seemed to
never
be the
kids.
case similar with the angels, because all we got to go off of is the earlier verses where God made everything. So we have to assume the
Exactly.
angel also got made in similar or a very close to same way.
Yes. So I guess technically, then they would be slightly childlike, or
Well,
maybe innocent is the better term.
what struck me as odd was, with us, we wasn't given the concept of good and evil. We wasn't given immortality. The angel was, because they never did any mention of the angels had to eat a tree of life or tree of knowledge. Or maybe they did, and they did it and they just never recorded it. But essentially, they were already in a state of knowing what good and evil was, and they were in a state of immortality, which make me think they was the closest to level to God than humanity was. Even though we were made in God's image, we and that's the other thing that struck me as odd was, we specifically was made in God's image, but not given knowledge of good and evil, nor were we given immortality. Where angel was given immortality and given knowledge of good and evil, but it doesn't explicitly say they were made in God's image. So that always struck me as like, so was God trying to make company with the angels, or was he trying to just make servants? And then when he made humanity, because and then it got me. Well, you know, okay, if I'm an all powerful being and I'm making the entirety of all existence, first thing, after making essentially a universe, I would start putting life in there. Eventually, once I make limited forms of life, I would try and make something more complex that is closer to myself, to give myself a challenge. And
Okay,
then,
so fu-
yeah,
funny thing, based on that, because I get what you're saying. So the way I've always kind of thought about, because some descriptors of God, which we might look into later on, does actually describe God, and like it also describes God as a kind of creature design of fire. So that's where the question of in God's image has been. I've always wondered, in that when it says made in God's image, does that mean like we were made as, to be like God, or does that mean that we were made within the image God had in his mind for us? If that makes sense.
yes,
Like,
it could be
yes,
a
if like
translation of how it meant
how God
image.
saw us for that. And
Yes.
someone actually brought up that, when you think about God created the garden, created earth, and then for this beautiful thing needed a caretaker, and that is why he created Adam to be the caretaker of this garden, which I don't know. I don't think there's a
And
lot for that, but
that
it was a thought.
and that struck me as odd that, like I felt like the caretaker of the garden was almost like a like I don't know. With the creation of mankind, it felt like God was trying to make children for himself, or at least something that he could treat like a child.
Yeah.
Because if he just need a caretaker, just use one of the angels. They clearly could become a caretaker because he put what, two cherubim in charge of watching it.
Very true. And the angels were supposed to be close to God, though they're apparently beings of light and spirit, which humans also have a spirit to them. So no, I agree. It's an odd thing because basically what we're arguing now is what's the meaning of life. Um, though I do believe that we are supposed to be caretakers of the earth, and we have not been doing a great job as that as humanity goes.
Well, I
But
mean, to be fair, we were supposed to be caretaker of the Garden of Eden. We cast out, and Earth is our punishment. So,
yeah, that too. Either way, um, but no, I do get what you're saying. It is very strange that God created angels with both immortality and knowledge of right and wrong
I
from the get-go, but with humans he did not. So you have to wonder, like, did the rebellion happen first, and that's why he didn't want to give mankind the knowledge of good and evil? But then again, if he did that, why put a tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the garden in the first place?
well, and then this could circle back to temptation and the whole original sin, the main of the temptation of going after what you've been told not to go after. But it to circle back to why can the angel be redeemed or not be redeemed? That's one of the things that always brought me up was because, like, if you look at a lot of the thing Revelation, it implies that at the end game, God's not really gonna. Well, no, sorry. If you look at a book that has been taken out, it implies that God's gonna forgive everyone at the end. But previously, if you just go off of Revelation without the books that have been taken out, it implies that God won't forgive the angels at the very least in the very end.
Yeah, actually, there's a reason those were taken out, and I will describe that a bit later in this talk, because it does come up again. But uh, yeah, it's just I don't know. It's interesting, but so one thing about whether or not angels can be redeemed, it is a question, and I think it almost kind of goes back to the old question. Like, if you've ever heard atheists debating Christians, one topic that atheists absolutely love to kind of like demean Christians is, well, could Hitler be redeemed? And could Adolf Hitler be redeemed? And this is a favorite for various reasons, because so I will say right now to the question, could Adolf Hitler have been redeemed? The answer is yes, but you see, there's some very specifics in that atheists, and to be honest, a lot of Christians don't understand redemption. Because here's the thing: redemption is not as easy as people think. Most people think that to be redeemed, all you have to do is say, I
For Hail
believe in Jesus
Marys.
yeah, or I believe in Jesus, forgive me my sins, and you'll go to heaven. That is actually not true at all. In fact, the Bible says this not only in the books you mentioned, and the books you mentioned were not having that, because in Matthew, the book of Matthew, it mentions this in Matthew 25:31 through 46, which is the parable of the sheep and the goats. Now, I'm not going to go through that whole thing, but most people will have kind of heard about this. It's where Jesus is talking to the Pharisees, and he's telling that when people go to heaven, they'll be separated, the goats and the sheep. And the reason will be, he'll say to the sheep that when you saw me, I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. And the goats, I was hungry, you didn't feed me, and all of that. And they were like, Lord, when did we do that? To all the people who you treated others, you treated me as such. So the point of this is that just because you claim to be a Christian, just because you profess
You gotta
Christ's
live the
name,
life.
you got to live the life. It doesn't mean that you'll actually go to it, because what Christ's whole message was is that none of us are worthy. Like, that's why the Jews hated him so much, because he's like, no, you're no better than the Gentiles. And yeah, no, that's literally why they hated Christ for. But the point is that redemption is actually the single most difficult thing you could ever do in your life. People think of redemption, they think it's like a get out of jail free card. It's like, forgive me of my sins. Okay, I'm good. I can do whatever the fuck I want now. No, that's not it at all. To be redeemed means you have to first genuinely ask for redemption. And to genuinely ask for redemption, you have to believe and wholeheartedly accept that you need to be redeemed. And the only way to truly believe that you need redemption is to first and foremost admit that you're wrong. And that is the hardest thing imaginable to do for a human being. Because let's be honest, even when we know we did something wrong, we try to justify it. We're like, yeah, I did this, but it was because of this, or but it was this. Because no, to truly seek redemption, you have to go, I was wrong. I screwed up. It was my fault. Not blame anyone else. I need to be redeemed for this, or I need to be forgiven for this. That's how you ask for forgiveness. So Hitler, for again, this is an extreme example, but Adolf Hitler could be redeemed, but he would have to first acknowledge that everything he did was horrible.
Yeah, if I recall,
And
I think he went out saying I did nothing wrong.
yeah, so that's the thing. No, that's the thing. He has to first acknowledge that what he did was wrong. And of course, you have to believe that Christ is your savior. That's the whole thing. None of us are actually worthy. So the whole point of Christ is literally to give us a cheat to be able to believe in him and go to heaven, because going by simply God's laws, none of us pan out. That's the whole point. To be redeemed, we have to say that we are flawed, broken human beings and we need redemption. That's the point. So that's where this thing goes, is that it's hard for humans to be redeemed. It's hard for humans just to admit that they're wrong and that they've screwed up and made a mistake. That's why we have such a problem with accountability in this day and age. So imagine how hard it must be for an angel.
Well, yeah, you are immortal and you are essentially very close to knowing a very lot. Not all knowing, but knowing
And
a lot.
you are very nearly omnipotent. So I guess the question is whether or not fallen angels could be redeemed. It would be, if they could, they would need to be able to first say, yeah, we screwed up.
Well, it's not only that. The other thing that also get me is their crime is a little bit worse. Than our humanity original sin was just disobeying God, which is bad.
Yes.
It's bad.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not bad, but
No, I agree.
you know, you can try again. This is mankind defending itself by saying you can make the argument we didn't know any better, you know, and things like in temptation, X, Y, and Z. But our sin was we disobeyed the Lord. That was our original sin. The angel's
Yes.
sin in this case, it wasn't so much probably led to the sin, but their sin was straight up they rebelled. They didn't they didn't just disobey. They straight
They
up
were trying to
rebelled.
replace God.
They tried to rebel. They tried to go
Yes.
for the what's the
They
old
tried to
saying?
replace God.
When you take a hit, when you take a swing at the king, you better not miss.
Yeah.
I think this is where that came from.
That might be, because no, what they, we disobeyed God, but the angels tried to overthrow God.
And I
Like-
only know of one case where mankind even did anything remotely close to that, and that was the Tower of Babylon.
Exactly. And even then, we were just trying to reach at the same height of God.
Yes.
And like even then, like it had dire consequences. But yeah, so no, the angels' crime was pretty, like, remember, these angels, essentially, God is their father, and they were pretty much trying to throw him down in chains.
Yes.
Which actually, we see that a lot in the Greek motif, but let's save that for another time. But so yeah, no, their crime is pretty severe, and they'd have, if they could be redeemed, they'd have to admit that, yeah, y'all shouldn't have done that. Which I'm gonna admit, I don't know.
That bring me to the point of would you redeem someone who literally committed treason against you? Who tried to betray who not only betray you, they betray you in the worst possible way of they tried to take you out. And it's like, that's why I'm like wondering if they are going to receive any redemption or even the option for redemption, because will this also circle back to the nature of what an angel is. Are they servants, or are they more like humans where they were given free will and they chose the will to serve? Or was it more the sense of they were given free will but they was given the title of servant to serve the Lord? I mean, technically everything have to serve the Lord in the end, but it seemed like the
Yeah,
angel have got the mission plan a whole lot faster than humanity and anything else did. So, it's
because also that's another thing which you were saying is that their betrayal is worse not only because they were trying to circumvent God, they were also his most trusted. Like he trusted the angels far more than he trusted mankind, and they rebelled because they were the close to him. Like remember, Satan was supposed to be a guardian cherub, which if we take that at some of the things value, cherub are like some of the highest ranking angels.
yeah,
So this was betrayal on a this is almost a brother betraying you. Like this is someone you trusted. This is like Benedict Arnold level of betrayal.
yeah,
So I mean that's really really heavy, and it goes with that because again like this is sometimes I have problems with people talking about being the argument with prisoners. I know is kind of a touchy subject, but one thing I've always gone with is people, something I've found out is like people who are truly like 100% sorry, who actually admit that they did something wrong. A lot of times you'll find is that they want to make amends. Like oftentimes they'll actually want to be punished in a form of amendment as well. And that's something I found out. Like like some of the criminals who say, "Oh, I've learned my lesson. Now I want to be free." You're kind of full of crap because, like, if you truly learned your lesson, what you want to do most of all is make amends. And this is actually something because I love redemption stories. I really do. My favorite is A Christmas Carol, and I've seen every iteration of A Christmas Carol, even the one with the Muppets, which was fun. But anyway, there's the one I did not like the most was Fox's version of A Christmas Carol. Not because it was overly dark, I'm fine with that, but it was because the very end, Ebenezer Scrooge sees all this, and then he sits down looking at his future grave post, and he just says, "It doesn't matter. I deserve all this, but if you're gonna kill me, just do it. It really doesn't. I really don't care. I do deserve it, but." You could trade my life for the boys. You could do something about that. And it's like he's going, it's too bad that I couldn't do anything, but if I have to die, I have to die. It's like, no, that is not how, and that's like, oh, it's this great. No, that is not redemption. And the funny thing is, the Netflix musical got this right because they had the same thing where he's looking at death and he's saying, I can change. And death is just staring at him. And Scrooge looks at him and goes, is there no hope for me? And he kind of understands that death is saying no, and he accepts his fate and says, fine, but let me go back and save the boy. Let me do that. Take me, but let me save the boy first. And that's the thing. When you're actually sorry, when you actually acknowledge that you've done something wrong, you want desperately to make amends. And I think that is something that's missed a lot, personally.
in some ways, I think when they did wrong, they actually sure saying, "Yeah, I deserve to be in here. Just leave me."
Well, yeah, that's the point. Is that you want to make amends or you want to be punished. You want to do something that kind of makes up for it. I think that's where purgatory came from, honestly. But
Well, that was
that
also supposed to be a get into heaven free card as well.
yeah,
For
no, purgatory is completely made up by the Catholics.
yes,
There is no purgatory. That's nonsense. The Catholics made up a lot of things, which who knows? We might devote one to purgatory one day. But again, that's the point. Is redemption is not easy. Like it is hard to just admit you're wrong. I think anybody can admit that. Like Zed, like 100% honestly, it's hard to just admit when you're wrong, right?
Depending on the subject.
Yeah. Like it is, and like we're human, we understand that, but that's what redemption is. So that's the thing with angels. If they could be redeemed or not, they would need to acknowledge that they screwed up royally and not blame anyone, not blame Satan, the first of the fallen. They need to acknowledge, yeah, we went with him too. And I don't know. I think that'd be hard for anybody because like we have problems, just owning up to our own mistakes.
Did they mention it was the third in the
No,
Bible?
they do mention it was a third. Yes, the Bible mentions it was a third of the angels.
So that now also got me into, isn't the angel hierarchy technically split into three?
Spheres, yes.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's also where that comes from.
And there's also, the Holy Trinity. There's a lot of
Yeah.
threes in the Bible.
Yes, no, that's why the angel hierarchy is, like I said, the angel hierarchy is based on biblical accounts. It's just it's not actually in there, but like everything is based on that. That's why there's three choirs, three spheres. There's lots of threes to symbolize the Holy Trinity. It's that no, that's where it comes from.
I think I know why they rebelled with only a third.
Pride.
No, I think there may have been. I think they thought that one of the other third was in the middle, while one of the other third was allied. They knew was going to be allied with God. I think they was hoping that they could convince the another third to join with them, so they would have the bigger number at the end.
Could be. I mean, we don't know. That's a possibility. Because that's happened in human battles before. That's actually how Henry VII won his battle.
That's how the Sengoku era of Japan was ended. Was you literally had three armies, and they both were fighting evenly matched, and the outcome would be determined by the reinforcement of the third army, and it was being undecided whether it was going to go to one side or the other.
That's actually happened a lot in history now that I
Mm-hmm.
think about it.
That's the only time I ever see rebellions like this take place, when they don't have the superior numbers, or they're not. Usually when a rebellion happen, it either a direct split like the Civil War, where it's equal, almost. Well, Civil War was equal number. No, had way more troops than they ever would. Actually, a lot of rebellions actually start off with like less numbers, and they hope they could get more as the rebellion go on.
That's true. That's so true.
I think they thought they could bring more forces in, if I had to take a
Well,
guess.
it also could be a superiority complex. Like again, the spheres are Catholic, Catholic fan fiction. But if the third that rebelled were some of the higher ups, because you know Satan was supposed to be a cherub, so he was pretty high up there. If the third was some of the higher ups, and like the other 2/3 were some of the
The
lower
lower, yeah,
ones,
that's what I
they
was
might have
also
had
thinking.
the arrogance because remember the South actually did pretty well in the first part of the war because they had all the actual strategists and generals from West Point on their side.
Yes.
But even though the North had superior numbers until they finally stopped dicking around and gave Grant the army
To be
that could
fair, they
actually do
did
something.
have other the North did have generals from West Points, but it
Not as talented.
it was more of a situation of the generals who went to the South was good at the micro version of during the actual battles, and in the end, Grant was the one who was good at the macro version of seeing the big picture.
Yeah, that's true.
Because was it
And
Grant or Lincoln who came up with the Anaconda plan? I think it was
uh,
Lincoln, possibly. I think with
what's
Lincoln
the
and his the
what's the
Anaconda
anaconda?
plan was capture the Mississippi to choke the South off.
I'm not sure.
It is what led to Grant getting his victory in Vicksburg, which was the same victory that occurred at the same time of this as Gettysburg, which basically pretty much condemned the South to, yeah, you're gonna lose. There's no hope for you at this point, type deal.
I
People think
think that.
Gettysburg was the one that dug the grave for the South. No, it was Vicksburg. Vicksburg, it captured the Mississippi. It cut the South in half. It
No,
completely put.
Gettysburg was just one of the like bloodiest.
Gettysburg was the one that forced was the first battle that forced Grant to just straight up. I mean, not Grant. Forced Lee
To
um,
retreat.
to just retreat. That's why it was big for that. Vicksburg was the one that legit you capture the Mississippi, you capture a major city, you capture a major station with Gettysburg, but you capture like a major port and everything. Yeah, it was Vicksburg that did the most damage.
Yeah, Civil War also had some very more modern warfare tactics, like
Iron
for instance,
ships, submarines.
yeah, some of the first trench warfare as well
Yep.
happened in the Civil War. In fact, if World War One would have gotten a lot better and lost less men if they had studied the Civil War instead of medieval tactics like they had actually
And
done. It wouldn't have been
some of
quite
them
as bloody.
some of them did. They did send European. There is records to show that several nations was sending European, essentially spies over to monitor our action because they saw that we were using weapons that I think we
Yes, but
was the
they were
most modern
very
one.
slow to enact
No,
it.
they were very slow to enact it though. That is very true.
Yeah, they were very slow to enact it because they did eventually enact it, but not until so much blood
Because
was
they
spilled.
didn't know enough. They saw the trenches, and you better believe they dug a lot of trenches.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, they did dig in a lot of trench. I'm just saying they were slow to do it.
Yes.
Um, they lost a lot of men before they did that. But yeah, no, because there was a lot to the Civil War, and it was also the start of total war with Sherman's March,
Yes.
which was the first time that had ever been done. I'm not gonna lie, like one of the big controversies with Sherman was when he discovered torpedoes, which were essentially the first landmines. He took his prisoners of war and forced them to march in front of him, but that was because he found landmines to be a dirty trick. And I'm not gonna lie, I have problems really condemning him for this
Well, I mean, we
because
did the same
as
to the
someone who doesn't
Germans.
like, yeah, as someone who doesn't like landmines and does find them kind of a cheat, um, I find I have trouble really hating on him for this. Like I have trouble condemning him for this because he was very protective of his men, and like he would rather sacrifice prisoners before sacrificing his men to, basically things that would blow them apart without even having a fight. So again, I have trouble condemning him for this.
Again, we did the same thing to not we did, but I think it was Norway or Denmark. One of those. It was one of those.
I will bet you money Canada did this at one time.
Well, yeah, maybe Canada. There's a whole Geneva code to what the
There is a
Canadian did.
Canada has done some shady shit.
But it was specifically there was a country that was heavily landmined by the German army, and they basically took a good chunk of the Germans and made them demine the area, and then after they demined the area to prove that it was safe, they forced the Germans to line up in a straight line and just march across the field, shoulder by shoulder, to confirm that there was no more landmines.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I have problems really condemning this.
Oh, they never condemned it. They were happy about that. They made a whole movie about it.
Oh yeah, I imagine. I'm just saying, like, I know some people would condemn this kind of stuff. I get why they're saying that. I'm saying I personally have problems condemning it, mostly because I really, really don't like landmines, and so, but yeah, so that's the thing, arrogance and everything else. So that's the question. It's nuance whether or not angels could be redeemed. If they can be redeemed, they have to first acknowledge that they screwed up because, um, like I said, redemption is not a get out of jail free card. Redemption is possibly the hardest thing a human being could ever do. And that's the truth of the matter. So with that kind of covers everything we want to go into with biblical canon. And next time we'll be looking at the Book of Enoch, which again, I know Shadow R Fox is looking forward to it. Please don't show a bunch of pictures with you covered in goat blood.
No. You're just gonna hear the howls.
Do we have to hear anything?
I mean, look, I gotta get the succubuses in here somehow. So
Oh, those poor succubuses.
I made the seal.
Okay.
They gotta show up. God dang it.
The correct term is succubi.
Really? You want to help him?
No, I'm just correcting both of your grammars.
Fair enough.
Me correcting grammar doesn't help him any more than it hurts him.
No,
Maybe
just
that's why I was misspelling the plur of succubi.
of course you were summoning more than one.
Yeah. Look, I mean, it's like Rush Hour. If you go to, I'm thinking Rush Hour 2 when he went to that's massage, quote, massage parlor. For those who've seen Rush Hour 2.
Yeah. Okay. I remember the scene. Okay, so yes, we'll have fun with the Book of Enoch, and I feel like Shadow R Fox may be very disappointed by what's actually in the Book of Enoch. But we'll also be as we continue with the Book of Enoch and other uncanonized biblical books. We're going to be talking about why they're not canonized and why they're specifically not part of the Bible. And despite what many claim, it's not because they were trying to create a particular narrative. But we'll go into that next time. And so join us next time where I believe, if I remember correctly, we'll be going over the Chimera. Or maybe I'll get bored and do something completely out of the ordinary. Who knows? So until then, either any final words for biblical canonized angels?
What do I feel like you're looking up a summoning ritual for them?
No. There's no. I don't think there ever was a summoning ritual for angels.
Well, there are, but not in the Bible.
Yeah, and I'm frankly, I've seen what they look like. I don't want to summon the equivalent of a angelic Cthulhu to my backyard.
Yes, for many reasons.
I mean, now if they look like the Digimon angel, if we got Angel Woman, okay, yeah, then I'm gonna have to do a couple of summons, okay, but
okay, do you honestly think we'd have that kind of luck?
No, but I can hope.
Yeah, exactly.
I can hope.
Yeah. Okay. Zed, any last statements?
No, I'm done.
Okay, that's
All right. With that, I hope you enjoyed this look into biblical angels so far, and we'll be booked next time with either the Chimera.
Oh, is that what this was about? With how many times we went off topic, I wasn't sure anymore.
Fair enough. Or the Chimera, some random monster, until we eventually look into the Book of Enoch. So until then, we'll see you around.
See ya.